I go extra every day, I got extras on the way. How much? Extra, extra. How much? Extra, extra.
Welcome back to the Pittsburgh Hustle Project. Today we're switching it up from the usual and we're diving deep into one of my clients' first flip project here in Pittsburgh. Today we have with us my friend and client, Trent Quinlan, owner of Quinlan Contracting. Welcome in, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for sitting down. So Trent just finished his first flip in Pittsburgh. He's been looking for one for a while, so figured we'd take this opportunity to kind of go deep into it, see what you learned from, take it from the start right to the finish, and see if we can give people like some guidance on before they get into their first flip, or even if they're in, their first few. I'm sure they can learn a lot from yours. So that was my intentions behind this. But again, I appreciate you coming on. So Trent, how did you get interested? You have your own construction company. How did you get interested in that and real estate in general?
Yeah, so I've had my construction company for about 5 years now. Started in 2020, and I was going good there for a while for the first like 3 years. And then I don't know how much backstory you want, but I had a deployment. So I was gone for like a year and I lost just all momentum with like the actual construction, like selling work.
Yeah.
I figured the best way through that was to kind of manufacture my own work. I've heard you and other people talk well about flips and how much money there's to be made there and real estate in general. So I figured I'll get into flips, just see what it's about. And so when I got back from that deployment, like I said, I had no work lined up. So that's when I started looking, and it takes a while to find a good one. You make your money on the buy. So it was like a year and a half before I found this one. And by that point, we were booked out like 5 months. So I like didn't really need the work at that point, but I still I wanted to get my feet wet with it. I wanted to figure out like if that was a good option for me moving forward. So
Right. Yeah.
that's what got me interested in.
Got it. Were you definitely focused on flipping? Like, is that what you wanted to get started with in real estate in general?
I thought it might be like a good option for the business moving forward. You got this big house that you're in without a customer. You're kind of making your own decisions. So that's why I was interested in flips really for the business. It seemed a lot simpler than quoting and finding work. It's like you're making your own work.
Yeah. You're creating your own job for you. Yeah. Okay, got it. So you mentioned you were looking for a long time for your property, like the first one. What was that kind of like? Like, what was going through your head at that time during your like initial property search for that first one? Because for a lot of people, that's like literally the hardest part. Like of all of this, your before, your during, your after, your flip, the hardest part for a lot of people is just finding that first one. So what was that like in your head at that time?
Yeah, I was looking on like Zillow and like realtor.com and stuff, like all the on market stuff. There really was not much there. So I found like off market people. I think it was New Western. I got this one through, and they'll just send stuff to my email like daily, different off market projects. So that's how I found this one.
So for people that don't know, New Western's like a bigger, I think they're more national type of wholesaler, where they get a lot of off market leads and they send them out to investors, and then they make the wholesale fee on that. So yeah, a lot of people in Pittsburgh here, we get a lot of the emails from like bigger wholesalers like New Western. So they do get a lot of competition on them. Did you have to like bid up to grab that one, or was there other competition on it that you knew of?
When I went to look at it, I was like chomping at the bit because this looked like the one. And I looked at it, I was probably only there for like 20 minutes, which was really stupid on my part. Not doing more research, but I was talking to the agent, and he said that there was a good bit of interest, like 4 other people thinking of making an offer. So I'm like, I gotta get this. I gotta make an offer like tomorrow. And so that's what I did. I made an offer the next day. I made it like a little bit below asking, but I should have gone a good bit under, like in retrospect, seeing everything that was wrong with the house already. It was in a great location. It had a great exterior, good windows and doors and stuff. So I figured like those are all like huge items that are important for a flip and can take like all your profit. So I figure if all that stuff's good, then like you're good to go.
Yeah. And then when you say agent, just to be clear on like the buy side, that was the wholesaler essentially, whereas New Western has, okay, got it. So New Western has agents that work for them. They call themselves agents, but they're really like kind of like wholesalers at the end of the day, right? They have an incentive to sell the property higher because they make more money on the commission and things like that, right?
I don't fault him at all.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just kind of like going in and out of the ins and outs and everything. Yeah, so that makes sense. So you chose the project because you felt like it would be like an easier one for you, like as a first one.
I don't think I was under the impression that it would be easy. I thought it was like a home run, like for sure. Just because, like I said, the exterior, the like realtors say, like location. This, you'll agree, has a great location. It's on a fair amount of land for that area. So I thought, like, if that stuff's good and there was a lot of other pros about the house, then I can't go.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a good location. It's a good school district. You had a big plot of land. It was a nice looking house, things like that. So yeah, tons of land acreage there. So there's a lot of things attractive about it for sure. Did you know what the wholesale fee was at first or when you closed on it? Did you see that by chance? Just curious.
No, that was
Okay.
like that was part of the like high closing cost. That's what I considered in there.
Okay.
So that's why that was jacked.
Just wondering what they might have made on it. And then for the comps like that you were running at that time, were you kind of comfortable with all the comps in the area to get you your ARV, or was it kind of like a little bit riskier from that standpoint?
I was comfortable because there was a lot of like this house was kind of hard to compare to. Like the comps weren't really close to this in my opinion, but all the comps that I saw were like probably $100,000 above the ARV for this one.
Yeah.
So it was just hard, like I said, because it wasn't like in the neighborhood where there's a bunch of like super similar houses that have all been sold in the last year. It's kind of like on its own. So yeah, the comps were it was kind of tough to determine what the actual ARV would be.
Yeah. When I talk to clients, I always say this one has like a comp risk to it, is how I phrase it. And it's like you have some areas when you go to buy a property, it's like it's so easy. Like in Pittsburgh, Baldwin, right? Baldwin ranch houses sell for $250 to $270 all day long. It's very easy. There's sales everywhere out the roof. This one, it was harder to find like a very good comparable for it. And a lot of the houses were further away. It's just a different type of area. Some of them were newer builds where yours is a little bit older build, right? So yeah, it gets a little bit tough to determine that ARV from there. So you kind of, at the end of the day, you're almost taking like an educated guess, but yeah. But we'll talk later about the numbers more in depth in it, but it actually worked out for you as far as the ARV guess,
Yes.
at least, right? So when you got the property under contract leading up to like closing, what was that process like for you? What are some of the things that you kind of learned during that process just from getting under contract up until closing?
So it took longer than expected. They were trying to close within a week. So I was like, as soon as we got under contract, I was like ready to go. I was ready to have subs in there immediately. So I told people like, this is, they were closing, like you can be in this day. And that
Yeah. They were trying to close a week from when you got under contract?
Yeah.
That's really quick. Yeah, it's pretty quick.
It's kind of unrealistic. I'm sure they do it with other properties, but it wasn't the case for this one.
Right.
It was a lot of just trying to find the right subs for it. Because up until this point for my business, I've been doing all my own work. I haven't really subbed anything. And I was planning on, since we were booked out like 5 or 6 months at this point, I was planning on subbing like everything. Like I was wanting to do like 95% of the work.
Because your contracting business, you guys were booked out and you had work lined up, so you didn't want to pull them off of that job to do this flip. So you're like, I'm just going to sub this out. Okay. All right. Yeah. So you're trying to find these subs and get them scheduled and everything. And are these recommendations that you're taking for the subs?
Some recommendations. I was on like, there's this Facebook like contractor real estate group I was on. That's where I found like everybody, but it is like, I'm sure you flip houses yourself. It's hard to find good subs. When you find a good one, like treat them like gold.
I know. I'd say that same sentence to everybody. Yeah, it's definitely, they're hard to come by. Well, they're easy to come by if you know where to find them. I would say, like if you go on Facebook, just looking that way, really, like I always tell people, if you're going to find someone random almost and they didn't come through a good recommendation, give them something small. Give them like a little paint job or whatever that looks like. Don't give them something like huge. That
Well, I was more comfortable with like trying out subs on this one because
Yeah.
it's my own. I don't have a customer to, like do it up to their standards. Like it was all my standards. And if I didn't like something, I knew I could just rip it out and do it myself.
That's a good call.
So
Yeah. You had a
I
little
was
bit
more
different.
comfortable with it.
Yeah, definitely. When you were pulling, like, did you pull together like a whole scope of work prior to closing? Like you had like everything kind of written down, like we're doing this here, we're doing this here.
A whole like kind of timeline, like this is going to take this long. After we do this, we can do this. That's like Gantt chart, or
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. Gantt chart, Gantt chart, 1, 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did have all that. And then once we started opening things up, I found out that like everything wasn't going to go like that.
Yeah, and that's coming from somebody that you're a contractor, like that experience. So you can only imagine with somebody jumping in the flips that really doesn't have that type of experience. So yeah, so you pulled all that together, and then you realized once you got into it, like things changed quick.
Kind of just changed very quick.
Did you have access to the property prior to closing, or not until you only saw it for 20 minutes, or did you go?
I went through again one more time. It was quick, but I took like some measurements and videos and pictures and stuff, so I could just like look through everything myself. But I only saw it one more time.
Yeah, typically, like from my experience, when you buy from a wholesaler and there's a seller still living there, it's usually I only get in one more time before we close. So like you got to make that time useful, like bring your contractor there or whoever you can. In your case, you didn't need that, but for anybody else, like, yeah, that's like bring your contractor there, make that time useful. I've gotten lucky like a few times with some of like the off market deals where I was able to like talk the seller into giving me a key, like on a lockbox, so where I can go as many times before closing as I want. So then you have no excuse not to be prepared at that point for when you close, but you had one time to go through. So yeah, so you had a little bit of time to prepare, but you pulled the scope together and everything like that. What was your plan like for the scope of work, like general idea, what you felt like you were going to have to do to the property, and then what was your budget for it, for the construction?
So what I budgeted was around 110, and that was all the demo. The upstairs was kind of just an attic at this point. There wasn't any like electrical, plumbing, framing, anything up there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we put in 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, which really jack up what your ARV could be.
So, sorry, just to make it clear. So when you bought the house, what was the bedroom and bathroom count?
They considered the attic 1 bedroom. I don't know how, because it was
a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. There was like no doors or anything. Like, I don't know what
kind
the
of
requirements are. Like, there's no like doors or closets or anything. Like, it was just an attic.
Yeah.
And so it was 3 bed, 1.5 bath when I bought it.
Okay. And then you had 1.5 bath on the first floor.
Nothing upstairs.
And then you had 2 bedrooms on the first floor, 1.5 bathrooms, and then just one giant bedroom sort of thing upstairs. Yeah, got it. Okay. And then so you had 110 budgeted for doing all of that work, and then going a little bit more what that consisted of.
Yeah, so like I said, the demo, and then putting in the bedrooms, the bathroom upstairs, that was a good bit of running plumbing up there. That was tough.
Yeah.
And then all the flooring, paint, all the trim, we were able to save most of the doors, but exterior doors we did. And then landscaping. The big one was the roof, and there was some siding. The majority of the house was brick, but it had a dormer that was siding, but the roof was in bad shape.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big roof, so that one was like a lot higher than I budgeted for.
Got it. Okay. So 110K, and then what did you buy it for?
227.
227. And then what were you estimating you were going to sell it for?
It was going to be, the ARV was 415 to 430, somewhere in there, but we talked about like comps. You can't really rely on those.
So I think you kind of went a little conservative as best as you could, so you weren't shooting super high. But yeah, definitely, yeah. And then what were you shooting? Like, what was your expected profit at that time before you started?
I believe it was around 40,000.
40,000, which is, for a first flip, that's a pretty healthy number, for sure. And how long were you thinking it was going to take you?
I said around 6 months, and
Okay.
we beat that number just because I was doing most of the work like personally and with my guys. So
Okay. So 6 months from closing until you sell it.
closing to closing, yeah,
Okay.
6 months,
Got it.
yeah.
Got it. Okay. So during that phase before closing on the property, on the project, is there anything like you learned that you would have done differently during that time, or do you feel like you did it kind of right?
During closing when I was purchasing,
Yeah, before you actually closed on the purchase of it.
before I closed on the
Yeah,
purchase,
like the planning phase.
not. I feel like I kind of did everything I could because like everything that I learned like that changed our scope of work, you wouldn't have really been able to know before doing
Yeah.
demo and everything. So I feel like I planned well. I was up most evenings like planning this out, making sure I had like the right subs in line, that all my numbers were right. So I'm confident that all my my planning went well. It was
Yeah.
just the stuff after the planning that
Gotcha.
was
So
a little
maybe
bit.
you could have just one thing. Maybe you could have like had more contingency in your budget, but maybe on the rehab
Absolutely.
budget.
Yeah, I was a little too optimistic about like how much things would cost.
Yeah.
It's a huge mistake with
Yeah.
construction,
Yeah.
which I should know because I do it.
It's different when you're probably flipping a whole house. The things just start adding up, and okay. So going into construction, what were like a few of like the challenges with this particular house and overall that you knew you were going to have to kind of resolve, or any like layout challenges or anything like that you knew you were going to have to figure out going into it?
Yeah, the layout was a little weird. We had to because the front of the house was like kind of the opposite side from the driveway, so it wasn't like the true. It didn't look like the front of a house.
Yeah.
So instead of we were gonna put a deck off of the second floor there, we opted for a roof instead, just because it made sense with how the house looked. Then we did a pathway up to there, just so it looked more like the front of a house and not just like the side or back.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was with the layout. That was just weird because the main door you were walking into was in the kitchen too.
Right. Cause you, from the road, you drove up the driveway. It was a big driveway, right? And then when you get to the garage, and then there's a door basically that goes right in the kitchen. So for most people parking, you're entering through the kitchen, right? But if you look at the house, the front of it actually looks like the one in the back, right behind the garage. So you were kind of struggling with like, what's the front door to this house, basically, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. So we did open up one of the doorways inside the house a little bit because I knew no matter how much we did to the true front of the house, like not many people are going to be using that entrance. I knew a lot of people would be using that side door from the driveway. So we did open that up a little bit, kind of did what we could with the kitchen, making it look like it kind of flowed into the living room. But yeah, that's how we conquered the layout challenges there.
Yeah. What about you mentioned like the bedroom situation upstairs. Did you know what you were going to do with that going into it, or was that another challenge that you knew you were going to have to figure out?
I didn't necessarily know what I was going to do with that going into it.
Okay.
I knew there was enough room to do 2 bedrooms and a bathroom up there. I just didn't really know how.
Okay.
And so yeah, day one there's a lot of head scratching. How are
I
you
think I walked into one of those. Yeah. So for your ARV though, that 415 to 430, were you betting on being able to add that bedroom and bathroom upstairs? Okay, so that was figured into there already. Got it. What about the property being on a slab, right? So for people that don't know, being the property on a slab it has no basement. There's nothing under the land essentially to go. Nowhere to go. There's no crawl space, anything like that, right? In Pittsburgh, we have older houses a lot of the time, so basements can actually be the toughest part of the project. So I'm not really sure. I've never worked on a house with a slab before. So what was the difficulties with that, and also maybe like, is there any benefit to it?
I thought that was like one of the biggest pros going into this because you already said that like basements are such a pain.
Yeah.
Like especially in older houses, they're just the ceilings are really low. They're just all ratty looking. You got to put a lot of money into them to look better. So I was thinking like this is on a slab, like I can't go wrong. Like, there's no
The
basement.
foundation issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then came the foundation or the slab issues, which the whole slab was sloping down towards one side of the house by about 3 inches, maybe like 2.
Yeah.
we were lucky. The footer of the house was good, so the exterior walls were all in place. There was nothing moving on the exterior walls. It was just that slab was just kind of, once we pulled up the flooring, it was all carpet through the house, so you didn't know before.
It's hard to know.
As soon as we pulled that up, we saw the asbestos tile, which that's always fun to deal with, and then just a bunch of cracking and sloping. So yeah, a lot of the budget went to floor level.
So the surprises came right after the demo, basically.
Dude, it was like within like 3 hours of being there, I'm like, this is gonna be a little bigger than I expected.
It's got a kick in the nuts right off the bat. So what about like the plumbing and electrical with the slab, right? Is that more difficult? Because all the projects I've had have a basement, right? So you can just run the plumbing and electrical from the basement. You can stand out of there. Does that make it more difficult?
Yeah, it was the slab and the fact that all the exterior and interior walls were block. So that was like double, like it was just terrible. Because like you can't just add an outlet here, like this is cinder block. You can't just run plumbing wherever you want. So yeah, that was a huge pain. Not just the slab, but I'd say mostly just the block walls on the interior. Because you can't just remove them. You can't, like I said, you can't run plumbing and electrical. So yeah, that was.
Got it. So if you were like, let's say a client calls you to do a house for them and it's on a slab, are you charging more because of that? Because you
never dealt. We're in Pittsburgh. You don't really run into that much.
Right. But you would probably have to think about it, right? You're probably like, this is going to make the job more difficult.
I would think. I mean, like I said, going into this, I thought that would make things easier.
Yeah.
But upon just removing the flooring, I found out that wasn't the case at all. So now I know if I ever do a job for somebody who's on a slab, now I know.
Yeah. The sloping on the floors, did you solve that by just doing self-leveling on the floor?
Most of it, yeah. You can still for sure feel some like dips and stuff, but overall it wasn't terrible after we put a vinyl flooring over it, so it wasn't terrible after that in the self-leveler. It was pretty bad before that.
Okay, sure. So you just spent a lot of money on that, get it as leveled out as you can.
It was like 50 bags of self-levelers. That was pretty absurd.
Yeah, that's awesome. You said you were hiring. Did you end up hiring a lot of subs? And then how did that go? Did you run into any issues there? Did you have good ones for the most part?
But we didn't hire a lot of subs. We subbed out the roof, the drywall. The drywall, I'm very glad I subbed out because there was like, that was a huge pain upstairs because it was like this kind of particle board on all the walls and ceiling. It wasn't drywall. So they took care of all that pretty well.
So they take the particle board off and then re-drywall it, basically?
They were able to do a skim with like a mesh tape over the entire thing.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it worked out very well. That definitely saved a good bit of money right there. So they were good. The roofer was great. Tile guys, not great, not great, but we got it done. I'm trying to think what else we subbed. We put an AC in. That was and then like all the painting, flooring, trim, all the landscaping we did. I'd never done a roof before, but we put this like the dormer extension roof on there.
Yeah.
And that turned out phenomenal. So yeah, we ended up doing the majority of the work ourselves and not subbing it.
Okay.
Just mostly because of money.
Yeah.
Because I knew right off the bat things were going to
You were going to be tight.
I wanted to sub everything. But
you weren't going to make money if you subbed it out. Yeah.
We'd be in the red for sure.
Gotcha. So the tile work you said was kind of rough. How did you overcome that? Did you have them redo it, or did you just
had them redo some? We had them redo some pieces. The work itself wasn't bad. It was more like the time they took. Like me and my guy can lay a shower in like a day and a half, and they took like a week, like to start the layout of a shower.
Yeah. They
were there for like a month, and it was 2 showers and a backsplash.
Okay.
Like, I don't know how they made money. They also smoked in the house.
Oh man.
So yeah, it was just, that's vet your subs.
Yeah.
I'm glad I used them on my job first, just to know, like, find another tile guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's how you got to do it, right? You use them, they don't work out, don't use them again, move on to the next one. That's all. Did you find most of them from Facebook and whatnot, or okay?
I think all these guys, or one was a personal connection, but the other guys were through Facebook. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So you budgeted a 1 ton for this whole project during and throughout, were you like tracking it the whole way, like every day, like
I was tracking every penny because I'm just used to doing that for customer jobs.
Yeah.
Like I know exactly how much like profit and how much I'm paying for each job to be done when I do one for a customer. So I knew this would be the same thing. I was tracking every penny, and that's how I knew right off the bat. Like we got to do some of this stuff ourselves to save on labor costs.
Yeah, definitely. And then you had well, probably should have brought this up earlier, before the flip. You used hard money to purchase this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 12-month like fix and flip loan.
Okay.
That was a little weird because I wasn't really sure how the draws would work. So a lot of this came out of pocket to start, and that was kind of a surprise to me, but it worked out in the end.
So you would pay out of pocket for whatever work you got done or materials or subs, and then you would get reimbursed yourself from the draw money from the hard money? Is that
Yeah,
what you
so they'd give you, because you send them a budget in, and they send out inspectors once you say like I've completed this, this, and this, and then based on your budget, like you budgeted $25K for the roof, it's done. They send you the draw fee.
Okay,
So
cool.
the work has to be like the majority of it has to be done before they
Before
send
you
you a
get
draw though. So like subs have been paid, my guys have been paid, materials all been paid for, but like I haven't gotten paid. So it's a
Yeah.
lot out of pocket.
Yeah, I'm doing draws for the first time right now, and previously I didn't have to do draws with my money lenders, and like I'm learning that as I go. It's sometimes you have to pay out of pocket, or if it's somebody you use a lot, you can say, "Hey, I got hard money on this." Just be honest with them. It might take a couple of days. Are you okay with that, or something like that? Typically they are, but I always try to be upfront with that because guys want paid. You know what I mean? When they're done with work, it's like, so you either pay them out of pocket or you just give them a heads up that they might have to wait a day or two because the draw, you have to pull the draw, and then it usually takes at least a day before you actually hit the wire, hits in your bank account. So yeah, that's a lesson I've definitely learned. That's why I always tell people like flipping with no money in your bank accounts can be pretty damn tough, right? Would you agree? Like it's
100%. That was the biggest stressor on this project from start to purchase or to start to finish. Like it was just there was so much financial strain that I just was not prepared for.
okay, yeah. So like because you were fronting a lot of it, and okay,
because I'm just the way I am. I'm gonna pay everyone, like materials all paid for. I'm gonna pay my guys, pay the subs, and I'm gonna take it down to my last dollar. Like I don't want other people to be waiting on me because that's how you get people to not come back and work with you. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah,
I'll pay everyone first, and I'll just take it out of my own until I get the reimbursement. So,
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like we hear it all the time on podcasts and whatnot. It's like you can invest in real estate with no money, no money, no money. It's like it's really not that realistic in my opinion. Yeah,
bigger pockets and stuff like
Yeah.
they talk about it like that is not the case.
No, it makes it very difficult. And like the word you use is strain. I think it causes stress. If you have like some reserves, like you're really not stressing. It's like, oh, that guy once paid. Now, here you go. No big deal. That's why I recommend, like, if you don't have money, and this is what I did when I first started and still do, is I partner with people. Like I partner with family. They have the reserves. So if we're in a jam or something, it's not a big deal. We just pay them, or we're at the end of the project and we go over budget and we're out of our draw money or hard money. We have the money there, so we're not stressed out about it. So I definitely recommend, if you're starting and flipping, have some type of money foundation there in place.
It wasn't even about going over or under budget at that point because it was just money out of your account. Like it doesn't matter the overall
It goes
numbers,
quick.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it starts once you start going, man. It's like, everybody needs paid. So for your budget, was there like a certain point you hit or something that happened that you were like, we're going over the budget that I was literally planning, or day one?
I didn't know what the final number would be.
Yeah.
But I feel like halfway through, I kind of had a ballpark of what that final number would be.
Okay. All right. So, and then where did you end up landing on the rehab cost?
It was 139 total.
139. Okay.
That does include like some of the holding costs too. I didn't keep stuff separated super well on that, but the majority of that was rehab. So.
Okay, so you're around 140. So you won about 30K when you were over than you were anticipating, 20 to 30K with the holding cost somewhere in there. Did you like? Was there like a big reason like you felt like you went over budget? Was it mostly like the initial issues with the foundation and everything that you had to level? Was that the big thing, or was there something else that was kind of like hit you by surprise or anything like
It
that?
was mostly the floors, like that slab we talked about. That one was a huge cost, and then upstairs too, there was an addition on there. It was a dormer, and that one was the worst construction I've ever seen. We had the entire like face of the house opened up at one point because we were just going to do drywall and then framing repairs where we needed to, but we needed to do the whole thing. Like it was the entire face of the house had to be ripped off, and we did that, so that was a huge cost up there.
The dormer, is that you're talking about the part above like that front door, right?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'll put that on the screen. So that was like poorly constructed, so you had to kind of rebuild it
It was
almost.
terrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
talk to my roofer. They didn't do the like where the roof meets the dormer. They didn't like frame that up well at all, so it was kind of like bowed right there. So he had a great time dealing with that.
Nice. Yeah. That's
And then roof, that was another roof and siding. It was a huge one where we went over. I think we were like 8 to 10 over on that one.
okay.
But I probably could have gotten it cheaper elsewhere, but I knew this roofer. I know he does like phenomenal work, and other companies will tell you like they can do it for this amount, and then they rip stuff off and change order, change order, change order.
Yeah.
So this guy gave me a price, and he stuck to it the whole time. Like he knew how bad the roof was.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, you start pulling it off, and then wood's missing from the roof and whatnot, so they have to replace it.
Wood.
Yeah.
It was like 3 layers of shingles, I think.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah. So it was
That was huge. Yeah.
yeah. It's a little messy. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you finished it off. You're at 140. How did you kind of decide in your head what you really needed to list the property for to sell at a profit, or was that something you kind of leaned on me for as the agent, or where were you at as far as list price at that point?
I was leaning on you mostly to come up with a realistic price we could list it at,
Hmm.
because I didn't want this to be something that was sitting on the market for 90 days. You know,
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
I wanted to get rid of it quick because we went 30 over budget for the construction. So like all that was out of my bank account. I'm like, we gotta move this quick, you know?
Yeah.
And then holding costs too. So that I pretty much just leaned on you for that one. I was pretty much from the start, I knew this wasn't the greatest purchase, and I knew there would be like we weren't going to profit that much, so I wasn't looking too hard at that aspect of it, like what our profit number would be. So yeah, that was where you were a huge help.
Yeah. I think where a lot of people make a mistake, and I don't think you did this, your mindset was, hey, this wasn't the best investment in the world, but I'm getting through my first one. I want to sell it quick and then move on to the next one. You know what I mean? Where I think people, they're just looking at their profit margin and they price it accordingly to that. And I'm like, these buyers don't care. Like they don't care how much you pay for it. It's only worth what they're going to pay for it. And I think you did a good job with that.
I'm sure we could have gotten more out of it because there was a lot of interest on it. Like
Definitely, yeah.
I don't know how many times we showed it in the first like 4 days.
Yeah.
There was a ton of interest on it. We got a few offers. So I'm sure if we could have sat on it for like another couple months, then we could have gotten maybe another 8 to 10 out of it.
Yeah.
So it was worth it for me to just cut my losses and move on.
Right. Yeah. Just kind of move on to the next one rather than if you price it too high with flips, I mean, you're risking it sitting for a while, then you get more holding costs, interest build up. So we priced the house at $444,900, right? So about $445. And then we sold it we had it under contract contingent at $450. So we were about $5K over, and that was within a week. So it did go pretty quick, which was nice.
Exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. It wasn't like 1-2 days, but it was, I think we were like 6 days in, and then you had a couple decent offers in. What was that kind of week for you? Like mentally, were you nervous about it? Or?
I was waiting for just refreshing Zillow, looking for that listing to go up.
Yeah.
Then as soon as it went up, I don't know how much this means, but like I saw like all the saves on it. It hit like a crazy high number, like compared to the other ones I was looking at. So
Yeah.
that to me, it just said like there's a good bit of interest. Like that kind of put me at ease a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Once you start seeing it, I mean, it does mean something. It's like people are, when they're saying they're clicking on it, they're looking it through, they're sharing with their family. I think on Zillow, when you share it, it like automatically saves it. So you can tell people were sharing it. So that
And
was
then
good.
you telling me as well that there was like there's a showing this time, showing this time. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, people are
Yeah.
actually wanting to see it.
Yeah, that felt pretty good. It was like as soon as we listed it, we were getting showings in like right away. So that did feel really good. Were you nervous at any point, or were you pretty confident after that that like we're gonna get something here eventually?
I was confident we'd get an offer. As far as like inspections and like the closing falling through. That's what I was worried about up until like the final closing. Like
Yeah.
I was thinking about that like after all the offers, after we accepted one, like literally right up to closing. I'm like, this could fall through. I wasn't trying to. I was like mentally preparing myself to like on the day of closing to hear like, oh, it's not going through.
Yeah.
Like,
Prepare for the
I was
worst.
ready for it. Yeah. But hopefully
Yeah. Was there anything during like the inspection period that you felt like maybe we missed, or you thought might have been an issue or anything like that? Or were you pretty confident the house was well done and we weren't going to have any serious problems?
I was confident the house was well done. I had an electrician there, I had a plumber there, and those are where they'll really get you. Like there's so many little things with electricity and plumbing that are
Mhm.
just they'll get you for on the inspections. So I was very happy when the inspection report came back, and it wasn't much at all. That's what I've heard is the killer is on these like tough flips. You'll have a crazy inspection and pretty much just have to take it off the market and fix all this stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and like something we wanted to do for yours, and I recommend is getting an inspector there prior to listing it, just to knock things out. I mean, I walked through yours and I knew it was good, like better than what I see. I knew we weren't going to have any issues with it, but some of them, it's a really good idea to get an inspector through to at least eye things up, like, hey, you should fix that, you should fix this, just to get that stuff done beforehand. But I mean, I think this house was super clean as far as that goes. I think my biggest worry for you was the trees, because
Yeah.
there was trees, a couple trees that were like closer to the foundation, but they weren't causing any issues. So I thought the worst case scenario, you might have cut a couple trees down. So luckily you didn't have to do that.
It was virtually like no cost to fix stuff for the inspections. So
Right.
that was probably the best part about this house.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a smooth process as far as that goes. So numbers overall, your purchase price and your purchase cost, where were they at? I think we were at purchase costs were about $26,857. Okay, so that's all.
Was 227.
Okay, so yeah, 227, and then plus like your the fees for the loan and whatnot. That's how you get yourself to about 269,000, right? Okay, got it. So that's a higher purchase price, I think, like for Pittsburgh too. So I think you took a gamble there as well. Like, a lot of times people get into flips, like they're usually around like, I think my average for clients is usually like 80 to like 150. So this was definitely on the higher end. Of course, the ARVs are higher and things like that, but that'll bump up your holding cost a bit, right? Because you're paying more interest and everything. Because the
For sure. I was originally planning on getting something like under 100K for the purchase price. Like you've been sending me properties that have been going up on the market like under 150 for a while. And when I saw this one, I'm just like, it's a lot higher, but like you said, the ARV is a lot higher too.
Yeah.
So it kind of just made sense.
I think you might have less competition on those as well. Sometimes they still can get competitive, but I know like the lower price ones are going to be probably more competitive in most parts. Uh, all right, so then your rehab costs. Where did you land there again?
139.
139, and then holding costs with interest or anything like that, or utilities.
Some of that's worked into the rehab costs. Like I said, it got a little bit messy there, but
Yeah.
there was about 8,000 in like the interest and utilities too.
Okay. Okay. And then selling costs. I think you were around like 28,000, right?
Yes.
Okay.
28. It was like a little above 28. It was like the commission.
Is that the commission and then transfer taxes and okay, gotcha. Okay. So that makes sense. And then your overall profit at the end,
20,
20, about 20K.
20,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the profit? You kind of like that was a good move. You learned from it, or like
I feel like it wasn't that the amount of stress that was definitely not worth it for 20,000. I wouldn't have done that again.
Yeah.
But the amount I learned from that was just like, you can't put a price on that, So,
Right. Yeah.
so I learned like, I feel like everything you can learn. I mean, I'm sure there's still a ton more, but I feel like every aspect of this kind of went wrong. So I was able to get through all that. And now I know what to look for on the next one.
Definitely, yeah. It's like the cost of tuition almost. And I always tell people the first one's always the hardest. Is that true? Probably not. But I think mentally it's probably the hardest, especially when you're first starting out. Like it's like that's where you're learning the most. I guess what I'm saying is you might have a harder one down the line, but because this is all like you've experienced this and you know how this can go, you're probably going to be mentally kind of prepared for it.
There's a lot more I'll be looking for on the next one.
Yeah.
A lot more. I'm going to spend a lot more time at the house before I put an offer in, checking things out. That was the number one thing I could have, because I would have offered lower on this one.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the number one thing I would have done differently, I think.
Got it. It just kind of just do a little bit more due diligence and buy better, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Gotcha.
buy better.
Yeah. And how long did it take you to complete this?
It was about 4.5 months. It was 4.5 months, or 4 months for the rehab and everything, and then 5 months to close.
Okay. Got it. Is that kind of what you were estimating around there? Or?
Yeah, it was actually under, because we were thinking it was going to be around 6 months. So I mean, the longest we could have gone was 12, but I knew we wouldn't hit that. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with the 4 or 5 month thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Is there any like maybe 1 to 3 things otherwise that you've already mentioned that you would do differently like on the next project? Like maybe like what's like the one big thing that you're like, I need to do this better on the next one?
Definitely just look at the house better. That was the biggest thing I should have done. I should have figured all those the slab issues. I should have figured all that out beforehand. That was the biggest thing. And then just the capital that you have going into it. Maybe if you don't have that much, use an investor. That's definitely what I'll be looking into doing on the next one.
More like a partnership?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
cool.
Just so, because I mean, there's so much stress from the project itself that when you start adding like financial strain onto that it's just like it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's a hard place to be. Like it's hard to operate out of that place. Like when you're stressed financially and stuff, it's really hard to like be creative and do cool stuff with it. It's like you're just trying to get out of it at that point. So I think I definitely recommend partnership at that. Like if that's where you're at financially, it makes it way better. You have somebody else to lean on and things like that. Is there anything that you feel like you did really good on it? Like you're like, I nailed this part of it.
I think we did great on like all the problem solving, because I'm telling you, like every day there was like a mind-blowing amount of like problems, like a new thing coming up. Like it was just every morning when I woke up and knew I was going there, I was just like, this is gonna be bad. But yeah, it was, the problem solving was the best part for sure. We did great on the landscaping too, which I've never done before, but I mean, I guess it's hard to mess that up. But yeah, I guess there was just an absurd amount of problems, and we were able to get through everything. So.
Yeah, this particular house, the coolest part about it was the exterior, like the landscape and everything. You guys built this beautiful patio, stone out front or back, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, just a huge. And then didn't you find out during the rehab that there was a whole other part of land to the house?
The neighbor, he was a super cool guy. He would come over and talk to us sometimes. And about halfway through, he brought me over to his property and like showed me the back of it. I'm like, why is he showing me this? And he's like, this is actually your property right here. He had his like chicken coops and stuff on it, like he had been maintaining it.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was behind a tree line, so it kind of made sense. But yeah, that was a huge surprise. It was just like another, like that was almost a quarter acre that I just didn't even know we had.
Yeah.
So that was a good selling.
And he wanted to buy it too.
He wanted to buy it, but he told him to make me an offer, and it wasn't like anything close to what I didn't think it'd be worth it, all that headache.
Yeah.
So.
I think you called me, right? And you were like, hey, he wants to buy this. And I think what I said, I said, just don't sell it. Keep it.
I was interested to see what was out there, like what he would offer, but it was
sure.
Like, it was I think he said like $7,000 or something. I'm like, that's just that's not.
It's not gonna, yeah, especially the spot you're in with this one. It was already tight, and I'm like, could give you an edge to sell it for more for people that are looking for a bigger acreage, lot of land. And it was cool, like when I was showing it and everything. It's like, hey, this isn't it. Come walk with me through this. Yeah, it stops there, but there's this whole other backyard for you if you want to fence it in. So it was definitely a nice selling point. So I think that was a good decision.
The biggest pretty early on, that it was going to be the extra that we had to make as good as possible.
Yeah,
because that was just it did have a great, like, nice secluded lot.
yeah, it was secluded. I think that was it, in my opinion. And then also the fact that the house was just well done. Like, it was quality. You didn't go in and see stuff that it was poor workmanship or anything like that. It was very well done and clean. And I think people were able to notice that. So that helped you a lot.
Another big thing on the sell that we absolutely did right, and this was because you steered me in the right direction, was the staging. Like, I honestly don't think we would have got those offers if it wasn't staged like that. Like, the staging looked beautiful, and it just completely changed the whole look and feel of the house.
Yeah.
So I would recommend doing that
again. Yeah, definitely. Staging helps a ton. I mean, even like, so this was I would say a higher price point house for Pittsburgh. You know, we're above 400K. Right. Always stage those. Even the lower ones, like I do a lot of houses that are mid 200s. We do like a minimal amount of staging, but it helps so much. But this house in particular, just with the layout and everything, it just really it gave you the feel when you walked in, like, oh, this is really nice. And yeah, they killed the staging. Somebody comes to you, they're like, hey, I want to start flipping. I want to do my first flip. What's like the number one thing you're going to tell them? Like, just to like give them a tip, like, hey, do this.
Have your finances in order for sure. If you don't have somebody that does, yeah, I've said it a million times on here, like that was the worst part of this project, was just not having my finances in order. And regardless of how good or bad the project was going, like there was just that stress on me that I was not prepared for.
Okay.
So yeah, do your homework on the house itself and have your finances in order for sure.
Cool. Yeah, and I think you had to do a down payment on that loan too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like $40,000, I believe. So,
was that how, do you know the percentage?
Yeah, it wasn't $40,000. It was 40 for all like the closing costs,
everything,
and the like origination fee, and yeah, the down payment.
It was probably like 10%, right?
10%.
So. Yeah. So that's something for people as well. Like, if you're using hard money if you haven't done a deal yet, and you have like at least a good one that'll pencil out, like ARV wise and what you think the rehab's going to be, they'll normally lend you 90% of the purchase price, and then 100% of the rehab costs. And then you still have to pay closing costs. In those cases, they won't finance the closing costs sometimes. And then you're going to have 2 points, and then higher interest as well. But after you start doing deals, like now, like you've got one under your belt, you can tell a lender, hey, I just did this one. You could probably go to somebody locally, and you can say, I'm a contractor. I have this deal I just sold it. I'm looking for my next one. They'll probably give you better terms at that point. Like, you might even be able to get 100% of the purchase price closed, so it's less money out of your pocket, which helps with that finance.
You're not a tire kicker. You're not just messing around. Like, you've done this. You've been here before.
Right.
So
it's less risk to them too, and everything. Yeah. So what's next for you, Trent, with the real estate game? Are you gonna start looking for more soon, or what are you thinking?
Definitely gonna be looking for more. I'm not looking for more right now, just because we're booked out pretty far with my business. But I have a couple partnership opportunities, so I might be doing that for the financing part of it. And I'm just gonna keep looking for every opportunity I can with the real estate. Like, I look at every house that comes to my email. Haven't seen anything yet, but I won't be chomping at the bit for another one for
okay, a couple months. That's not bad. Take a little breather, and then are you gonna be solely focused on flips, you think, or do you think you're gonna get into rentals as well at some point?
I've given that a good bit of thought, and I don't see any upside to rentals for me. I'd kind of rather just get in, get my money, and get out.
Okay.
So I'd rather not. I've heard horror stories about like bad tenants, or like just not being able to keep one in there. So I don't think anytime soon I'll be doing rentals.
Okay.
It's
interesting.
just flips and just running the the construction business.
All right. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that down the line. We'll see if I can change your opinion. But no, I mean, in all honesty, like property management in general is not for everybody, and it can cause more headaches and stuff like that. So if you're not something you want to deal with, it's probably not worth getting into it yet. There's other more passive income generators or investment vehicles you can do. Well, I appreciate you jumping on, man. Thank you, and I'll be looking for you on the next flip here in a couple of months.
Sounds good. I appreciate
All right.
it.